My father was, again, one of those people who he did everything right on paper, minus one crucial thing, which was going in and looking underneath the hood, right? So he ate generally well. He got his steps in every day. He trained 4 or 5 days a week. He did all of the right things. He lived in Old Town Scottsdale, and him and my stepmother, they would always walk the canals there. They were active. They were not living this sort of hermit lifestyle. He wasn't an attorney. He wasn't an entrepreneur. He didn't have this, high stress. And so it was super out of left field when we found out he was dying from cancer. He was doing everything right. And it's super unfortunate because if a product like this had been available just years before, and he, of course, assuming he was a subscriber to it, I think he'd still be with us today.
Yeah.
It's in my story is tremendously common. My father, he started experiencing this back pain. That's how we found out he had cancer. And the traditional healthcare system failed him so miserably. It is terrible how poorly the traditional healthcare system handled his situation. He was just dismissed left and right by everybody. And he'd go in, I have this lower back pain. Oh, it's fine. Go to a chiropractor, go to a masseuse, go get it worked out. And he did all that stuff, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse until eventually, finally, somebody was like, okay, yeah, let's take a look. Let's run some labs. Let's do a CT, an MRI. Let's go and see what's happening. And by that time, it's probably 6 months have passed from when he first started experiencing the symptoms to when he actually went in to look. And it was cancer that had spread from his lungs up his back to his brain. It was everywhere by that point. And it was too late. It was too late. We tried fighting it. We did everything we could. And another way that the traditional healthcare system failed us was this was during the height of COVID. So hospitals were crazy. It was hard to see anybody. If you had somebody there, it was hard to go in and actually be with them. And so the hospital gave us a dilemma. And it's horrible that they did this. But they essentially told us, hey, your father's going to die. We can take him upstairs and keep him alive a little longer, but he's not going to get better. He's going to die. The caveat is if we take him upstairs and keep him alive a little while longer, you're not going to be able to go up there with him because COVID rules don't permit anybody to be on that floor. No visitors. Or alternatively, we can take him to the hospice and at least there he'll be more comfortable. And he's going to die there within the next 48 hours. And so this was a decision that the hospital, gave us, forced us to make. And it's just terrible that even if it was a 1% chance, a greater probability of him surviving if he went upstairs, that we wouldn't be able to be with him in those moments. And almost forcing us to go the hospice route. And ultimately, I was there with him till his last breath, holding his hand till his last breath. He was listening to worship music. He was going out faithfully. And I was with him when he went away. And, it's obviously a sad, very sad thing, but it's also a very beautiful thing as well when you get to actually be there and know that they weren't alone in that. And yeah, it's hard because physically my father is gone, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that, especially building Jevity, because Jevity is my way of honoring him. And ultimately, hopefully, if it's just even one person, Jevity was a huge success, ultimately preventing people from experiencing what I experienced.
Yeah.
And that's why I got into this. I had sold a small little tech company in early 2021, around the time we found out my father had cancer. He ended up passing away September 8th, 2021. It was very clear I had to get into this space. I had to get into longevity. And
was it a moment where it just hit you in the heart?
Yeah, I think it was.
What was
yeah, it wasn't crystal clear. I started doing research into the space. I started doing research initially on what sort of testing options were available. Even just going to your primary care physician and asking for a full panel. What all is that actually looking at? And come to find out, it's just not looking at that much. I mean, everybody knows that now, yet people still go and do it. I say everybody knows that now, but Unfortunately, that's actually not true. Everybody in our
Yeah.
world does,
Yeah.
but we live in an echo chamber.
We live in a bubble.
Mhm.
So, with respect, I'll just interrupt you here.
Mhm.
The amount of emotional processing that's needed, it seemed like it gave you clarity on how you were going to be in honor to his life.
Mm.
The anger that people feel when they go through an experience like you have and your whole family, that anger, on the other side of that anger is the acceptance to change and maybe even the power to change the environment so it doesn't impact other people.
Mhm.
How did you personally work through that emotional ladder, and how have you shifted the grief process into sadness and heaviness into service? How did you do that?
Dude, that's an amazing question. So, for even more context, my father passed away just a couple months after I got married to my wife. And then a few months after that, we found out we were pregnant. So just, 3 of my life's biggest moments condensed into about 6 months span.
That's a rough Bronco ride.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was. It was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
It was the highest highs and the lowest lows, and a lot to process. Up until that point, just like too many people are, I was a little dismissive of therapy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And
Talk therapy per se,
yeah,
or just any therapy?
just honestly, any therapy. And it was just uninformed. I wasn't really, I had an experience when I was younger. My parents got divorced when I was really young, and I had a bad experience. I was a kid, so
Yeah.
I don't even know how bad the experience really was, but it turned me off to therapy. Well, I started talking to a therapist, after all this happened, and that right there, just the ability to decompress and frankly, be completely vulnerable with somebody is just so healing. Being able to actually even just let the words roll off your tongue instead of just keeping it all tucked away inside is so healing. And so I think talking to a therapist was crucial. And I've made that routine in my life, especially in this season. Jevity it's growing. It's growing faster than we thought it would grow, which is really, really cool. But even more need for therapy, navigating all of the emotions that come with that.
Man, thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I really love this because, on the screen right now, y'all, is the wellness pentagon: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial. And those are the ways that I believe for our community that we feed ourselves. But at the bottom is physical. The brain, the soul, everything exists in the body. So if we're not looking at the body first as like the starting place, then it's really impossible actually to fill the other sides of our health, to nourish ourselves. And I can only imagine how not just your story is a micro of the macro. And the macro is that, very sadly, this is happening to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, especially in North America, and then probably, hundreds of millions in the world. Because this model of reactiveness is so broken and is so old-fashioned. And it was built upon, if you look, in the early 1900s, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, y'all, go ahead and look at how the medical system actually was formed. If you really want to get deep on it, I think the medical system is great at fixing a broken leg, or a shoulder issue, or when there's really like injuries and trauma to the physical body. But this massive gap that continues to get wider and wider and wider is someone's wholeness care, holistic care. And I do believe, I wonder how you feel about this, I do believe in my heart of hearts that the same amount of money, if not more, is available to these companies and to these physicians if we shifted it to proactive care. Do you feel the same? I think there's more abundance on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel the same necessarily.
How so?
I think that reactive care is highly profitable. And I think that's why there's incentive to keep people unhealthy, frankly. That's why there's incentive to ensure that our food supply is so bad here in America. There's incentive to get people to buy drugs. That's the only way these big pharmaceutical companies are going to operate. So as a byproduct, there's incentive to keep people sick. There's less incentive to make people healthy because they're going to escape this profitable loop that traditional Western medicine keeps you in.
Yeah.
And so it's this profit machine, the traditional Western medicine system, that is so profitable. I mean, it's like a too big to fail profitable.
You think it's too big to fail?
No.
At least at our current point of consciousness.
Air quotes, I don't think anything's too big to fail.
Yeah.
I think I think God has shown blessing on this country with sparking the Make America Healthy Again movement.
Yeah,
and
Maha is where it's at.
yeah, and just the attention that's drawing to this space is tremendous. So I think it starts with people. People need to open their eyes. More people like you need to, start shouting from the rooftops the truth of the matter. More people in America still believe that traditional Western medicine is like the only way.
Yeah,
it's this false sort of ideology that your doctor owns your health. Your doctor doesn't own your health. They're not walking in your shoes. You shouldn't expect your doctor nor want your doctor to own your health. You have to own your health.
Whoa. So you love that episode? You'll love the one on the screen. Click it and enjoy.